Howdy, folks. Welcome to a contextual video for your Contribute to the Culture project. I guess you can think of it as an example, that type of thing. In this video, I'm trying to get you to the point where you feel confident offering an idea that hits the vibe, right? Where you are taking a look of what Star Wars is culturally, what it is in the saga, in the canon, and then offering a way for us to connect with it other than just, hey, let's sit down and watch the movies again. So hopefully this video is going to hook you up with a little bit of the feel, the type of thing I'm asking you to embrace and embody and put forward in this in this project, right? So you may notice that my man Obi-Wan is missing from the shelf because I got him right here. Now this video is going to be in a few parts because we got to be a little bit more mobile. As much as this office is set up to be existed in and enjoy the wars in its way, it's not really set up for the production value of giving you a tour of my stuff. So we're going to have a few parts, but this part is going to focus on my Obi-Wan Kenobi figure from Hot Toys. He is right here. Let's angle him up for you. Let's get him in all his glory in the vid. All right, we can maybe give him a bit of a turn, get a little bit more drama. You see, I've got him in a case where he is lit up because, well, he deserves it. He earned it. Again, this is the Hot Toys Obi-Wan Kenobi 1/6 scale. They don't pay me to say this stuff, but if they want to cut me a check, I will be glad to keep saying it for money. The idea is, though, that this Obi-Wan is not from the films, okay? So we're talking about how to contribute to the culture, how to offer something that we don't have. And so what the Mythos line did was imagine Obi-Wan in this in-between space. After he drops off Luke at his aunt and uncle's, and before he kind of settles in his hut in the Tatooine desert. And so you've got this intermediary Obi-Wan in a space, and I'll pull him out in a little bit so you can see all of the features for that. So as you can see, I mean, he's got his robe, you can hood him up, you know, you got your Obi-Wan stuff going. He's got some goggles, you know, we've never seen him with the gogs, but it's Tatooine, sandstorms, that whole thing's gonna be a deal. All right, the robe's tattered, worn, super cool, highly posable. You got his classic Obi-Wan lightsaber here. And I bring that up because the general image of Obi-Wan, the things you expect are right there, right? They've given him a little bit of weather-worn hair. His beard is starting to gray, so he's getting this in-between age. If we spin him, you're going to start to see some of the stuff that the artists, the creators brought into this figure to really encapsulate the in-between space, right? He's got this hunting rifle. He's got a grappling hook because you got to have a grappling hook. He's got a utility belt here. He's got some gaffy sticks from things he ran into. He's got his Clone Wars armor draped on there. You've got a personal water vaporator so he can drink in Tatooine desert. And these are all things that suit, that fit, that would likely be there, that could imagine being there, and also stuff that needs to be there, right? His Clone Wars armor. And the crux of this like imagination you see down here, he has the Skywalker saber and Qui-Gon Jinn's saber. All right, so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing an Obi-Wan in the in-between space before he becomes this full-on desert hermit and after he is already committed to dropping Luke off and then being this from afar guardian. And the real masterful moment of this piece is that the face was constructed, what they did, and there's an article on Blackboard right underneath this for you to check it out if you want that artist interview. What they did was they started by just giving it the old school young picture of the actor who plays Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness, right? They just say, oh, Obi-Wan in the desert is Alec Guinness, so let's go back and get this actor's headshots from when he was age appropriate. So they crafted him. And they're looking at it and they say, you know what? It's just not right. It's not Obi-Wan. So then they start to think, well, that's because young Obi-Wan isn't young Alec Guinness. Young Obi-Wan is Ewan McGregor, right? So what they do is they take images of Alec Guinness, of Ewan McGregor, and the sculptors start to craft a face that is partway in between Ewan McGregor in the prequel trilogy and Alec Guinness in the original trilogy. And they come up with this face. And they say, that's it. That's your Obi-Wan. Because he blends these things, these spaces. And so, gang, this is the type of action I'm looking for, the type of thoughtfulness, the type of intention. Now, on the one hand, I understand you might not have the resources that Hot Toys has to pull something like this off. But the question is, are you an artist of some kind? Could you create this in some other way? Absolutely. And with 3D printing where it's at, I'm not completely sold that you couldn't create an action figure, right? So the idea is that, yeah, I'm not necessarily telling you that you have to have a high-end, ridiculous collectible figure of a limited run. That's not what we're necessarily going for, but the idea is what we're going for, right? If a student submits this, let's say, I say, oh, okay, we're looking for unique entrants to the Star Wars franchise that we can't get otherwise. Well, here is a figure that tells a story that was not in the original Star Wars, but is in the original Star Wars. This is Obi-Wan's existence in a place in between the films that must exist. He goes from dropping Luke off to settling in the desert. What happens there? This is the space where he becomes a master tracker. This is the space where he is Tattern, but he's learning about the environment itself. He is bringing his Clone Wars baggage with him. He is bringing this need for water, this basic life support system in a desert space. Nothing is more important, more dramatic than water in the desert. He has these gaffy sticks. Huge heads up to the indigenous peoples, these people who live within the landscape, whose entire culture is driven forward by this. And he gathers these gaffy sticks, and it starts to say that, oh, you know, when he takes that image in of the crawler and the frame up of the Tusken Raiders, right? He has some personal knowledge of these people. He has these cultural artifacts that speak to who they are, what they do, how they handle themselves. Going to be super useful to have that indigenous knowledge of the landscape to then live in the landscape. And also here he is, this line being drawn to that scene in Ep 4 where he says, oh, it was made to look like the Tusken Raiders did it, but they always walk single file to hide their numbers, right? He has the baggage of the sabers, of course, these driving imperatives, this lineage. And Star Wars is all about the lineage, gang. It's all about who teaches who, whose father is who, whose parentage is what. It's all about it, gang. It's going to solve a lot of problems if you start thinking of wars as about the lineage, okay? And Obi-Wan is a particular part of this lineage. And this is telling a story that must be told. that exists, that is already there. And it's telling it in a very unique way. This isn't a graphic novel. This isn't the Obi-Wan series that's about to drop on Disney Plus. This is a figure doing that work, showing his entrenchment in the landscape, showing his journey from the Clone Wars to the failure of the Jedi to his then hermitage, his exile, to both watch over and not interact with Luke as this next generation. He's carrying there the lineage of the Sabers as well as his own. And so this figure is just absolutely the epitome of being able to craft a connection to Star Wars. They craft an entire story that does not exist canonically, but must exist. None of this contradicts literally anything we know about Obi-Wan. And as far as why it helps us connect, I mean, me personally, I had to have this because I may not have told you, but for the better part of the last 10 years, I've been doing wilderness survival training. And why I keep bringing up that nature-driven tracking moment is because the survival school that I attend is rooted in tracking. And so all of our information about nature, about the life, about the system of the environment, about interactions and all that stuff is dug into through the tracks that are left on the ground. And so when you've got Obi-Wan on his journey, learning, master tracking, learning the nuance of the Tatooine environment, this figure made me fall in love with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the man, all right? But I never quite agreed with every bit of his actions, all of his doctrines. Sometimes he seemed like a little too much of a goody two-shoes for me. But this story right here, this idea, I was like, okay, this is the moment where Obi-Wan goes from the failed instructor of Anakin to this potent instructor of Luke, who still has a place to learn. But you saw how powerful Obi-Wan was on Tatooine, being able to chase off the Tusken Raiders, being able to enter into Mos Eisley and Jedi mind trick the stormtroopers. And then in that moment, he in this space of non-organic Death Star stuff, he becomes more powerful than Vader could possibly imagine, because he is one with the Force, which, as you'll see in upcoming weeks, when I say the Force, I mean the living Force. I mean something that is oriented around natural environmental equilibriums, and you should be thinking balance of the Force, and we will definitely be coming up on that stuff. So gang, that's why I had to have my man Obi-Wan, because it was just that moment of Obi-Wan for me. They told a story that was not in the films, but was in the films. And this is just an amazing figure. And definitely, if you're interested, check out the interview with the creator of the figure that I posted up on Blackboard to give you a little bit more nuance into the craftsmanship and the intention that's going on here. But gang, this is what I mean. How do you contribute to the culture of Star Wars? Not just, hey, something we can buy that's super cool, because that is part of Star Wars culture, buying cool things. But what is the access to Star Wars that this grants? And it grants us access to this in-between space, to this nuance. We need to reconcile Obi-Wan as this hermit, as this exile, as this master and protector. We need to reconcile Obi-Wan as Ben and Obi-Wan. We need to reconcile Obi-Wan as Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor. And this figure in and of itself falls in line with the Force as this environmental, natural, organic knowledge and access. Okay, gang? So this figure is just one example of what I mean with contribute to the culture. So that's the type of vibe, of feeling, of moment I'm looking for you to capture. Don't be intimidated by this, by some of the other things, the intensity and diligence and just high caliber of production that goes into each of them. First off, you're capable of doing something amazing. Don't sell yourself short, but also the key is to get that feeling, not necessarily this high-end collectible product. All right, gang? So jump down to the next video, take a look at the other stuff, and thank you for letting me show off all the cool stuff that I buy. And now it's like, it was actually a work purchase. It helps me justify the money I spent. Gang, be good, and I'll see you in the next vid.